Hey there fellow creators, Ben here from Cinerblock Studios, and back today with another product review. Today we're looking at Golden's Open Acrylics. Stick around. Golden Open is a type of acrylic paint that is slow drying, so the paint remains open and workable and wet a lot longer than traditional acrylics. The paint itself is slightly looser than a regular heavy body paint, but because it's acrylic, it still just cleans up with soap and water. So when it comes to using the open acrylics, you're going to notice the paint is still kind of thick, but a little bit looser than what you might expect out of a heavy body. This level of viscosity isn't necessarily my ideal, but you can always make it a little bit thicker or thinner by adding any other acrylic gel, medium, or paste. Additionally, if you let your paint sit out for a little bit longer than maybe, an hour, say maybe 3 days, the paint will start to thicken up a little bit more. Now your results may vary depending on your particular environment, but this particular paint that I'm showing this example here, I left set out for around 3 days or so, and while it is a lot thicker and still somewhat workable, you can tell that that long drying time really is a big deal. I've also noticed that in using them, a lot of colors do seem a little bit more transparent than they might otherwise be. Even traditional colors such as pearl red or bone black, which are kind of known to being a little bit more opaque, some of them a lot more opaque, you're still going to find that unless you're really putting on thick applications of the paint, which would take an exceedingly long time to dry, you're not going to be getting the same level of coverage and opacity that you would out of a regular heavy body. Additionally, these paints can be used to extend the drying time of regular heavy body paints by doing maybe a 1-to-1 ratio or a 2-to-1 ratio to maybe make some of your painting experiences a little bit more relaxed, but not necessarily taking those several days for your paint to dry. You can just give yourself a little bit more of a working time that's probably better for things like skin tones and skies when you still want to work on acrylic paintings but don't necessarily want to make that jump to oils. So I've talked about a little bit of the two sides of pros and cons already, but let's take a little bit more of a breakdown of those. Like all the other paints that Golden puts out, you're looking at high quality acrylic with a high pigment load and really great consistency all around. If you need the relaxed working time, this is the paint for you, specifically if you want to stick with acrylic. Oils have fumes and can take a long time to dry, but these can also take a long time to dry if you want to go that route but not have to worry about the messy cleanup that oils have. Because these are a high quality acrylic, you're looking at a very wide range of colors. If you're familiar with Golden's heavy body line, you're going to be surprised to find that most of those heavy body colors are also available in open. I find that the extra added bit of transparency with these paints due to the lower viscosity is actually really good for glazing. I actually love using these paints towards the end of my paintings to give my pieces a little bit more complex colors without necessarily going for that super opaque color on top of another. And because the viscosity is a little bit lower, the coverage and the spread of that paint goes a lot further. On the downside though, these paints, because they're a little bit looser, are not designed for impasto work. So if you want thick brush work, interesting textures from your, the brush or a knife or anything like that, this is not the paint to do that because those thick layers of this paint can take an exceedingly long time to dry. So it's best to do your underpainting with a heavy body or whatever other paint you want, and then maybe do more finishing work with those opens. I've also noticed that the long open time for Golden Open acrylics can almost be too long. I've actually had a couple of different colors of open sitting on my palettes next to oil paint, and the oil paint dried faster than the open did. But granted, that actually has a little bit more to do with pigments, especially in the oil paint side of things. And again, as I mentioned before, most of the colors lean a lot more transparent. So if you want to look for something, a paint that is well open, but necessarily covers a lot more, you're going to need to use a little bit more paint or that 1-to-1 mix with a heavy body if you want that heavy opacity, not necessarily the glazing, which open is better for. So in my personal opinion, the Golden Open acrylics, they're a really great line of paints, provided you know what you're getting into before you buy them. So I found in my own work that adding some Golden Open lines to my palette has actually kind of expanded how I've thought about painting a little bit. Despite kind of swearing off oil paint at a young age, I'm actually finding that I'm starting to pick up some oil paint here and there because the Golden Open has allowed me to kind of make a little bit of a transition in order to understand that I can do both, but for different projects and different things like that. And I think the Golden Open, if you're going to be an oil painter that wants to try acrylic, or an acrylic painter that wants to try oil, it's a great transition medium for you. Also in my own work, much like the way I implemented the Golden's high flow line into my regular color set, I actually use the open in a very similar way, and that's to supplement colors. So grab a few colors that I don't have in my heavy body line or in the high flow line in order to expand my range of mixing and really create a better working color set for myself, and then I can make really any color I can think of. So if you enjoy this video, learned something, or just want to support me, go ahead and hit that like button. Consider supporting on Patreon. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt, my own website, and all that fun stuff. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and this has been Center Block Studios, and I will see you guys next time. Gotta get some better walk-off thing, and when I'm not just standing here. It's kind of awkward.